Right, I decided to make a very quick documentation. I say quick, and it can sometimes end up being an hour long. Right, well, first of all, pink. Barbie, eat your heart out. Right, I've just spent some time with a girl who I say girl, we're both 41, but she lives just up the road, and I wondered when I was going to bump into her, because my godparents live in the next road. And all one on the pier. My partner won these. Anyway, sorry, diverting. It's absolutely insane, everything that's happened. How can I want to say this without being rude and being insensitive. In a nice way. We were talking about one of the temporary accommodations I was in Eastbourne, and oh God, nightmare on Elm Street, as she said, which is brilliant. I hadn't thought of that, because we were living in Elm Street, and one of the temporary accommodations where we met each other, I hadn't seen her since I was 12 years old, and this was back in 2019. The craziest people, the craziest characters of Eastbourne. The one with the long grey hair and the long grey beard, he was in there. He sits outside the co-op and sleeps rough and screams and shouts his head off. I can't believe I've lived with these people. And a woman from the traveller community who I had to tell her she took her own life. And I didn't realise at the time that she had told Helen all these horror stories. As one can imagine, the worst of the worst. She was, I know you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but she was vile. And she'd come in covered in blood from so much drink alcohol. Because she got hit by a car one time, she was covered in blood, and she was taking people's cooking and eating it, and basically, doing. The police had given up on her. It's amazing. The UK police are just very gentle on the drunks and brutal with the nice, innocent people. And one of the reason why I got a letter of apology from the Professional Standards Department was because she came, I thought she was going to attack me, and the police were hanging up on me, and the Professional Standards Department at Sussex Police apologised for doing this, and they continued to do this at the flat. I was telling her, she saw me in Lidl. She wasn't sure if she should say hello or not. I didn't realise she was nursing her father at the time, and now she's looking after her mother. Well, I still don't know how my father died. And of course, to be beaten and assaulted by the police, and I was trying to tell her as much as I could. The thing about Helen is and even she told me that her own mother said people think you're mad, because she is a bit in your face. She's maybe quite possibly louder than me. Than when I'm with my partner, I can be like that, but I know when to turn it down. She's just told me something about my eldest sister that I didn't know, because my eldest sister lives in this town and she's a landlady, and she's, as she said, a tyrant. She'd actually written a letter to her saying, "I'm sorry, I can't deal with your issues. You remind me of my sister," meaning me. Thanks, Tanya. And I said to Helen, I said, "Well, that's funny, because you remind me of my eldest sister a bit." So, a bit in your face. Now, I'm just very enthusiastic, but I don't put pressure on people. But I didn't want to I can be the real me with my partner, but I can't say to Helen. She used the F word I don't know how many times she gave me a lift. There's an awful lot. This is why she needs to understand. Some of us need help from adult social care, because we can't deal with people being in our face. But, well, funnily enough, she was saying she can't deal with it. And she said, "Oh, I didn't want you to think that I was a narcissist." Well, I've got to be very careful with my words. Words have power, as Darren said. Yeah. But it's complex. I've gone about this the right way. I've been asking for help the right way. I haven't taken drugs. I mean, for years people said you'll probably get the help if you took drugs, if you were... She goes on about autism and ADHD a lot, and she relates it to herself and others around her, but you've got to be very careful with things. This is why I don't do the labelling thing. I do the narcissist labelling thing because that's everywhere in our society, but she's very intelligent. She knows a lot about a lot. But listening is not, I think she realised it's not her greatest. And I think you've got to be very careful, because people who really are on the spectrum, everyone's on the spectrum. Every human being is on the spectrum. It's just a lot of people are one end of extreme, and you just got to be very careful. You've got to be very careful. At the end of the day, it's about listening to people, and listening is a skill, and it's something that I just wouldn't go to Helen. No. I can be very careful, because I don't want to badmouth her on YouTube. It's my way of documenting. But she's saying you can't go back to Eastbourne. She was telling me that the reason why she didn't listen to me at the time, because this quote-unquote paedophile hunter, or self-proclaimed, he had his own issues. There was so much toxicity, so much mental illness, and so much narcissism as there is in all of these places. It's just absolute insanity. a lot of people have got extreme issues. Some of us, if we got the help, it would have been fine. And they know that with me, but that's why they didn't want to give me help. And as my mother said, my late mother said, there's a lot of jealousy in this country. Helen's mother's American. My mother lived in America and North America, and but I was just excited to see her at that place, that hellhole, because I remember her from my 12th birthday. She's from my past. And then she said her mother was at my sister's wedding. My sister, she's only just admitted to me, because she didn't want to trigger me at the time, that she'd written a letter to her saying, you remind me of my middle sister. I don't want you doing... And I said, well, isn't that funny? Because she wanted me to be a bridesmaid and then decided she didn't want me to be a bridesmaid. And I've still never been to a wedding to this day. Because she said, quote, unquote, my sister said, I'll be a bitch on the day. Oh, but a lot of people think I'm wrong for doing this to you, which she was. I'm her sister. So I've never even been to my partner's sister's wedding. So I've never been to a wedding, period. I've seen the Vicar of Dibley. I've seen weddings on the TV. I've never been to a wedding. I've never been married myself either. But, so I've just learnt, because my sister wrote a horrible letter to one of the executors of my late mother's estate. She seems to know all about that. There is gossip, there is. I know there are things Helen isn't saying, but small town. All of a sudden, she's just been saying to me, you've got to stay in New Haven, you can't go back to Eastbourne, but I've just had a property offered to me. And this is not something to be sniffed at. If you get offered a property, and this is with legal aid, and it's in East, oh, you can't go back to Eastbourne, they've caused you so much trauma, PTSD. But the thing is, she was doing this at the time that we had a brief interaction, and she's just apologised for this, but she's going back to saying, I've only been with her for, I don't know, a few hours, and you've got to come back to New Haven. I'll help you. You can do this, you can do that. I don't need that controlling behaviour. So actually, this might be an opportunity for me to get her to listen to me. Because I do remember thinking how sad it was. She claimed the reason why she went up to this random lad who was telling us he'd been to prison over attacking someone with a crowbar or something, and he had his daughter taken from him, and this was in another teeny tiny room in Elms Avenue, but not in the property that we were in. And this was on the seafront, and at the time I needed her to listen to me. She said her father died in her arms. Well, I still don't know how my father died, and I've just had these horrific things done to me. But she wants me all of a sudden to live in New Haven. You've got to live in New Haven. She's trying to help me, but on her terms, as it were. And it's very frustrating, because if she's talking about, she seems to know, she's obviously done a lot of research into women with ADHD and autistic spectrum disorder, because it relates to her and her family and stuff. Oh, it's so rare, you need to have this, you need to have that. And I'm thinking, oh, crumbs. There are complex issues. My eldest sister wasn't very nice to her, but she's got her own issues. And I tried to explain this to her, that there was violence from my father to my mother to my sister, and I was told by a locum that I need trauma-based therapy. And this goes back, and trauma and autism look very much the same. You can't tell the difference with PTSD and autism and trauma. In children, it can look the same, like the same thing. And apparently a psychiatrist said to a girl on the psychiatric ward that I was on, well, I say girl, a young woman about 6 years older than me, oh, the Asperger's diagnosis is not very helpful. Yeah, we know that, because every human being is on the spectrum, for one thing. But the trauma can go undetected in early childhood because it looks so much the same as, So I hope that this helps someone out there. I don't know anyone in my circumstances because they're so unusual. I had to deal with my mother's death and attempted rape on my own, and then the worst trauma. I laughed off attempted rape, but the worst trauma came from these police thugs. It's so infantile, yes, I know, but where does it begin and end when it's been going on for 7 years? I was telling her about this Sherelle Clark that was mentioned in the national news as mugging the elderly with 22 previous convictions. And mentioned again, it was doing the same thing and the police were arresting me when they had told me, she's seeing an act, a front. She saw the quiet me. She was really, which is what Helen is like. She's like, ugh. And I think she thinks she's listened to me. I don't think it's just one of her things. It's not something that she's really gonna like. I managed to say as much as I could, bearing in mind she said it herself. You're suffering from PTSD. You can't go back to Eastbourne, not after what they've done to you. You've got to come here. You've got roots here. You were born here. I know a home. She gets talking to lots. She's like me. She gets talking to every Tom, Dick and Harry. You know how you can be so like someone but so different to them. That's like me and my eldest sister. And she's got problems with her siblings. I won't go into because it's too extreme and I need help with my sister. I cannot deal with my eldest sister's behaviour, as my middle sister said. When my mother died in 2009, she said it's dangerous behaviour. And obviously, I know Helen's not being entirely honest when she says... Because the thing is, they're trying to get information for themselves. She said, you're married, aren't you? I said, no, I'm not. And it's interesting because that's exactly what my eldest sister said. You're married, aren't you? When did you get married? Well, I don't want to be rude about Helen. I don't want to be rude about anyone. I don't want to be rude about my sister. I don't want to be rude about my partner. Don't want to be rude about anyone, but women can be very controlling and very narcissistic with other women. That's why sometimes I've got on better with men. Even abusive men, I think. It's like women can be very... And I've got a problem with women anyway because of my eldest sister. And Helen, I think she sees she's got a problem here, but she's still only seeing things from her own point of view. At least she listened to me. because I've often, as soon as I came here, I thought, I wonder what Helen is doing. I went for a walk and I told my partner how she was shouting at the dogs. One of them, because I said to her, how the hell can someone steal your dog? But anyway, one has to be. Anyway, the place I'm in, this place, this temporary emergency accommodation, it turns out it was the childhood home of my childhood best friend before she moved to, because I can't give away where I am, what town I'm in, even if it seems obvious. Before she moved to Bishopstone, she definitely did live in this, because she was like, is that the home where the police station, next to where the police station used to be? I was like, that is where your best friend, Chloe. So, how weird is that? And across the road is where a childhood friend from my infant school, and her parents still live across the road, which I thought it was further along here, but it's further along there. And it turns out that Jane Everson, the friend who lived across the road that we were talking about, because when I first met Helen Hipperson, it was either my best friend Chloe, who lived in this place, this emergency accommodation, this was their house. It turns out that, because the first time I met Helen, it was either on Chloe's 12th birthday slumber party or when we went to Dieppe for the day. Again, I can't give away what town I'm in. I was envious because Chloe and Helen were in the Sea Cadets, and that's when the uniform was so smart, and it interested my mother because my mother worked at sea in the 50s and 60s, and she worked for Woman's Magazine, met famous people, did everything. She tried everything. But Jane lived across the road, and I was saying the happy memories I had of Jane. There. I remember one of the birthday parties where she had one of those 80s toys, a secret keeper. She had the swan with the wings and the crown. She said, oh, I had the snail. I said, I had the snail. I had the crappy snail. I wanted the, what she had. We had a key. And we played Blind Man's Buff. And I forgot to mention the giant hippo she had on her bed. But I think Helen has seen the rougher side of this town. It's not like Eastbourne. She said, you've got peace and quiet here, you know. I said, I know. I actually can't believe I actually grew up in this town. A very middle class upbringing. And my mother made me an Edwardian dress, and I walked into town wearing an Edwardian dress with a Victorian doll's pram with the antique dolls in the pram, as well as my real dolls. Just down the road, I remember getting one of my dolls there. And I'm into reborn dolls. I'm into dolls. I collect dolls. I don't think that necessarily makes a person autistic. Having collections, having interests, or even she knows about demonic strongholds. And Helen has just admitted to me down in the little car park that she had a Freemason. She's related. One of her great-grandfathers was a Freemason. And apparently she was screaming and shouting about it when she was having a meltdown because she's had a lot of stress to deal with. And I said, well, I didn't tell her about the yo-yo I won on the pier, and my partner encouraged me to destroy it because it's got the one eye symbol on it. This stuff is real. I didn't want to destroy it, but that object was already starting to take a foothold in my life. At that very point, I come back from the pier and he said, destroy it, get rid of it, anything, just get rid of it. I said, but I've wanted a yo-yo for years. I stood at the bus stop and this 50-year-old man walks up to me and says, F me, I haven't seen one of those for years. Neither have I. And it was one of those light-up yo-yos. When I was a child, I had one that sparks came out of it. But my partner was right. He said the eyeball is to do with mutation. It's to do with, all this, the eyeball, the Eye of Horus and all of that. I said, okay, fine. So I took it outside, stamped on it, threw it in the trash. So what I'm trying to say here is demonic strongholds, generational curses, everything I've been talking about, it's real. It's real. I mean, some of these things are more obvious than, when my partner was winning, when my partner won dream catchers, because he's won me these items. This is a man who won me this, and my partner won all the other bits and pieces. I've got loads of watches. But whenever he wins a dream catcher, he destroys the dream catcher. And he's won one of those key rings that's got an eyeball on it, and he says, right, that I'm going to destroy that. It is grotesque. And then there's the Buddhist, is it the Buddhist thing, the New Age hand thing with the eye on it? That's disgusting. So I've got loads of these pretty diamante key rings. So it's interesting that Helen's told me that she had a Freemason in her family. There's so much to be questioned, though. The thing is, if you've had, I didn't say this to Helen at the time earlier, but if you've had a Freemason in your family, I can't always get a word in edgeways because she's like, ugh. So, no offence, Helen. But if you've had a Freemason in the family, you can have, I'd need someone like Jeanette Archer or Mark Devlin to explain this, but some sort of mind control. There's definitely generational curses. I mean, I haven't told Helen about the things that we saw in our house. The UFO. Well, my mother and my middle sister, my transgender, saw the UFO. Oval shaped, moving slowly. The Bible doesn't talk about this sort of thing because it explains what they're entities. My sister seeing me when I wasn't there, drawing, colouring in like this. She and her friends saw me and getting the house blessed. Now, Chloe actually thought that the house was haunted because we lived behind in front of the churchyard, St Michael's Church. No, it wasn't because of that. It was because of the strongholds in our family. My mother's mother, Kay and Rod, who lived in George in South Africa, she could read tea leaves. When we were talking I was talking to her about the New Age stuff and how I'm concerned about my transgender sister being into this stuff. And we've just said a prayer together about me finding my gold ring. Even though she's got the intelligence, she knows that there could be still a demonic attachment, but it's not about stuff. It's the fact that this gold ring is an heirloom. So I'll need to find... I said, this flat that has just been... this property that's come up, I cannot turn it down. She said, no, you don't want to go back to Eastbourne. Tell them you've got to come here. What she doesn't understand is I've come on a very, very long journey. This is my journey. This is my battle. This is my personal victory. I'm not saying that someone's going to take that victory from me if I let them help me, but I'm saying you've got to understand this lovely lady from adult social care. She's what I need. Whereas Helen's in my face, she's calm. I've looked in her eyes. You can see she looks like she's emotionally affected. She looks like she listens. I need someone to just shut up and listen. And Helen's not the person to do that. No offence, Helen. But Helen knows that. If I've got ADHD, if I'm on the autistic spectrum like everybody is, I'm not in exactly the same spot as... well, everybody's different. This is why I don't like labelling. She said, have you been diagnosed? I said, I haven't been properly diagnosed with anything. The OCD, this is what this is all about. This is what my appointment with adult social care has been about. I have been fighting so hard to get where I am. And now these people need to be held accountable. And she can't just take me down to the storage place in this town that I spent some of my early years in, because I need to hold them accountable if that gold ring is not there. And this is where the common law stuff comes in, but she's got to care for her mother right now, so and look after her. I'm on my own. I've got no family, no friends. People will often say, oh, well, my partner will say, just because I've got parents, it doesn't mean I can talk to them. Yes, I know, I get it. But you've still got parents. Because as he said to me himself, Mum and Dad wouldn't let me be sectioned. Oh, well, that's nice for you. It's nice that you can get into your 50s and say that. Those of us who've got no one, anything can happen to us. And I feel like a child. And as part of this mind control, this programming, I'm still having to stand up to Helen. She said, look, we're both big girls. We're both 41, big girl pants. We can do this ourselves, That's not the issue, though. If you really are extremely vulnerable, Helen is a different kettle of fish. She and her brother can... the number of times she said the F word, she doesn't worry about being too polite. She says how she feels. I don't do that. This is where it's complex. That's why people have said to me, Bryony, you're not in the psychiatric unit. Someone said to me, you're not usually like this, are you? When they saw me, but that's PTSD, that's trauma, that's the narcissistic abuse. The rest of the time, I'm too polite. I'm OTT polite. There are times when I would just love to tell someone to F off and what they can go and do with themselves. Helen was telling me that one of the reasons, she has actually apologised to me, but she said one of the reasons why she didn't spend time with me was because this Rosie, she said, Rosie, she was telling me all these things had happened to her. The partner of her children was beating her up. She's had her children taken from her. Her father raped her. Then she said that she, being a traveller, not I'm talking about the ones who have a bad reputation, not the people who cause no loss, harm and personal injury, because she did. I mean, as I said, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but I'm just telling the truth. If you've done wicked to someone else, I will speak about it. I will speak my truth. And it's terrible. But some of these people, they give themselves adult social care. We know about the child services. We know about the human trafficking. We know that's something separate. But when someone is using their own trauma to attack other people in council accommodation, her own family had washed their hands of her. Apparently her sister had told the police, "I've washed my hands of her." This was someone who is out of control. If you're getting so drunk that you're walking into the street getting hit by police, by vehicles, and the police are fed up with you, what does that say? You can't really care too much that you've got children that have gone into care, can you? That's what this vile creature who was mugging the elderly did. "Oh, Marv, kids have gone into care." And the whole time. And the police actually asked if I would testify on her behalf because I heard it beating upstairs from her drunk partner. No, I care about the elderly people that she was mugging, but this is where the council and the BBC News will cover it up. I mean, Helen said to me, "No wonder you're so targeted if you're going to..." I told her I spoke to John Wedger from MI5. "Oh, no goodness, no wonder you're being targeted." But I was disappointed with him. I'm disappointed with him in the same way I was disappointed with her. And she said, "Don't send me any text messages." The thing is, she did call my sisters C words at the time, and I have every right to react. I think you've got to have a certain level of patience to be with someone. It's very sad because I like to spend time with Helen, but she wants to show me a photograph. I'd like to see this photograph she's got of me when I was 11 or 12 when we went to Dieppe. But even there and then, she was too much because she put my elbow in a pile of sick and thought it was funny. And the childhood best friend who lived in this emergency accommodation when she was little, this was her house. This was her parents' house. I said to her, I don't even know if she was listening to me. The last time I saw my father was on my 12th birthday. And Chloe was with me, and my eldest sister chased him away. My eldest sister moved to this town when she was 14 to get away from him, to live with my grandmother because of the violence from my father to my mother, then to her. She's not listening. She's in her own bubble. She's diagnosing me before she's listened to me, because my eldest sister has said, you remind me of my sister. I don't want to deal with you. I'll pay you, but I don't want to deal with you. All this narcissism. And now she's just apologised for it because I haven't seen her for the past few years. But in that time, I was being attacked in council accommodation. Now, it'd be very easy for me to get angry and say, oh, she could have come down and helped me. Her brother even texted me, I better come down there and sort them out for you. But he's without being personal, he's had some sort of drugs issue. The thing is, everywhere you go, it's going to have its problems. Adult social care are finally... People cannot see past the end of their own noses. Helen is caring for her mother. I was meant to get help with my mother's cancer and I didn't. And that was under adult social care. I've just been beaten, assaulted out of my home. I said, Helen, I thought, how can I simplify this for you? I said, I can't even call the police without the worry of having my calls terminated. If my life was in danger, that is how serious it is. Now that they're actually realising they've got to do something, this is my victory. But more than that, this is about my health and safety. These are crimes against humanity. I didn't speak in common law terms. Interestingly, Jane Everson, whose parents live across the road, and I was in infant school with her. She is actually now a police... Did she say detective? I think she said a detective for Sussex Police, because she lives in Seaford now. So she's a detective for one of the most corrupt forces. Apparently she works for victim support. She said not all of them. It's the first response team who are... I said, I know they're not all bad. I know they don't all start off in the police. Well, actually, I didn't know that. But I said how helpful a PC Dixon was when I had attempted rape. This is only something that has started within the last 7 years. Ever since I've been with my partner. But no, anyway, I can't. This is why I'm so much happier on my own, because I can then choose who and when. I can't be with people who are in my face. And it's interesting that my eldest sister, it's not surprising that she was narcissistic with her. But then when I look at Helen, sometimes I can see my eldest sister. So it's kind of funny that she said, you remind me of my younger sister. Because Helen reminds me of Tanya. So she said, oh, if you were to live in New Haven, you could bump into her and get on with her. I thought, no. Helen knows that the dirt, she knows, she said herself the dirt about her. She's a very intelligent person. She knows a lot about a lot. She says how the devil works. So if she knows that, she'll know. I don't want to I don't feel comfortable labeling her as a narcissist on my YouTube channel, but you've got to be very, very careful. There's a reason why I kept away from my eldest sister. She used to poison me against my mother and my middle sister. She's damaged. And all I can say is, thank goodness, none of us ended up like some of the people in these temporary accommodations. And I'm not a snob. But they are extremely dangerous and vile, some of them. But it's still a choice. It's still a choice that they made. I'm living proof that not everyone who has had this trauma and been damaged goes on to become a narcissist, to attack others. yes, I'm angry, quite rightly angry at what has been done for me when I reached out for help. And, you know, passive aggression, covert narcissists, they're drawn to jobs where you help people, and it's universally known that they like working as doctors, nurses, anything to do with helping others. I mean, crumbs, I got attacked. That Lucy Letby thing, I commented on something on MSN. And all I did was, I didn't say this nurse was innocent at all. I said, I'm allowed to give my opinion. That's what the comments section is for. And I said, I don't trust the NHS, not with the mass genocide. I mean, Helen kept using the C word, the convid word. Ugh. And I said, look, I'd already woken up because of what I was going through. Anyway, I can't believe she's had a great grandfather as a Freemason. Maybe that's why there's so much damage in her, and as I said, generational curses. But anyway, as I said, I was talking about commenting on Lucy Letby, and I said I'd met this brave fraud investigator in the psychiatric unit who showed me legalese documents to do with baby organ harvesting and satanic ritual abuse, and he's known as the people's hero. And what have they done to him? They've put him in prison, they've tortured him, they put him in the psychiatric unit, they've done everything to destroy him. And one brave man. And I said, I cannot understand why 18 people have disliked my comment, but it took just one person, one precious person, hoping and praying that they're not an agent, like the 77 Brigade or whatever, MSN. One person commented on my behalf saying, the devil, stay strong, words to the effect of stay strong. Our Heavenly Father is protecting you. The enemy, you know, have discernment, because this is what the enemy will do. I said, I know. Abba Yahuwah bless you. And, you know. Anyway, Helen has asked me if I would like to help her out with some catering. Oh no. She, like me, she went to Brownies and Guides, and she was in the, what do you call it, like my best friend, she was in the Sea Cadets. And yes, there's a link to Freemasonry. I always knew there was something funny about the name Baden Powell, but she's asked me if I'd like to earn something out of it by helping out, and it sounds like loads of fun. It's a camping thing up in Sevenoaks, which is in Kent, a nice area. So, she said anyway. She didn't think it would be good for me to go back to Eastbourne, but this is. I'm not going to be, if I'm put in a safe area. Eastbourne is a lovely place if you're in a safe area. Meads, you know, the middle class parts. It's the town that she knows what's going on, because she said a lot of them are being sent from Brighton. The criminals, the really rough, dangerous ones are being sent from Brighton and London. And she said, I don't think it would be good for you. I said, but she thinks I should. It is quieter here. I do actually. It's amazing how quiet it is here. This is emergency accommodation. the paralegal said to me, this is a breather for me. Yeah, too damn right. But that doesn't take away from the fact that these councillors and the MP and all these people that have failed us. Okay, so I've been heavily targeted and I've learnt my lesson. But does that mean I should be afraid? Does that mean that I said, I'm not going to be afraid to go back to Eastbourne just because I have stood up to tyranny. Because for one thing, I haven't once spoken to Helen about, she believes in COVID. World War III is coming, you know, the whole cashless society business. And so why should I be afraid? No, I haven't come this far. I haven't come on this. I've defeated the enemy. I didn't even say to Helen that earlier today I was feeling suicidal, which I haven't felt that way for a long time. But it was triggered because my partner was raising his voice down the phone and some other personal things that I don't really want to say on here. But, you know, I spent my 40th birthday in the Cavendish Hotel, which I self-funded for 9 months. What did my eldest sister do for her 40th? Had a whale of a time. She had inflatable, you know, bouncy castle and disco and everything. I haven't had any of that. I've still never been to a wedding. As Helen described my sister as bridezilla. Yeah, well, she could have had me as she wanted me to be a bridesmaid, then decided she wouldn't because she would be quote unquote a bitch on the day. Those were her own words. And her own best friend, who's the daughter of my mother's best friend, and that is the person I've been trying to get in touch with. She'd be in her late 80s now. Apparently she's had cancer. My godmother wouldn't tell me because she hung up on me when I was being attacked by criminals in an accommodation when one of them was mentioned in the national news. No, this is my battle. They had their chances to help me. My godmother looks quite frail now. She's got a stick. But she could have told me. She didn't even know. She believed that there was a big deadly killer out there. Brainwashed by the propaganda and the mass genocide. And all I wanted to know is where is my mother's best friend and to get in contact with her. And I still don't know how my father died. So the thing is, it's very easy for Helen to say these things. But this is my battle. This is my victory. My victory, this is. She doesn't like long text messages. She doesn't like novel text messages. Well, then I'll just say that. I could have just ignored her in Lidl and she expected me to do that. And I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't. Because I don't. But anyway, yeah, so this is my childhood best friend's house, which is funny because the house that my eldest sister and her husband share, obviously they've done things to the house, made it quite luxurious. They've got things I could only dream of. But that's the home of children I played with at infant school as well. And this emergency accommodation is the old house of my childhood best friend. So how about that? What are the chances? So there are spiritual things going on as well, though. I'm totally fascinated. I said to Helen, I worked with a Freemason at Paradise Park before I knew about the the child sacrifices of children and babies. And I did tell her about the conference I went to. I didn't mention Jeanette Archer, but I mentioned the speaker at the conference, Ray Savage. But and it hit the fact that he's got a friend who's a mutual friend of my late mother's, and isn't it a small world? It's a very frightening world out there. So that alone should be enough to make Helen realise how much I need help and support. If you've never had trauma-based... My transgender sister said to me years ago, my mother used to worry herself sick about me, and she thought she'd come home to find me hanging or something. And this is something that only in most recent years that I've really, really come very close to doing myself some very serious harm. I mean, I don't know how serious being on a dialysis machine is, but stabbing myself. I mean, even the police officer, who was initially an idiot, but then he looked as white as a sheet when I showed him what I'd done to myself. He said, you could have severed an artery because the knife went right through. And my partner has had stitches where his tendons are. Now, Helen could have listened. She's just apologised to me, but she went up to a random man who was being sick in the street, because this is what she does. She gets talking to every Tom, Dick and Harry. And what I need is someone who's got time, who's got that it's just very sad, because I'd like to be able to be friendly with Helen, but she's too in my face. I need someone. I mean, she makes me laugh, yeah, because I can see some of myself in her, but I also know when to be calm. I know I need that calmness. I know she said she needs it herself, but yeah, when I don't know, when everybody's different, everyone's in a different place. It's just sad, really. It's just really sad. And it's sad with my eldest sister as well, because she wanted to have, my eldest sister claimed she wanted to have a relationship with me, but she was poisoning me against my mother and my sister, and they'd say to me, look, you know what she's like. Oh, she said this and that about you. She's a broken person because of what my father did to her. Sussex police contacted my father, and he said, is this attention seeking? Now they've beaten me again upon the news of his death, and I haven't seen him since my 12th birthday. I told Helen about the YouTube channel, Police Abusing Powers. Not even worth it. But I said that one of them falsely offered me legal help when I was self-funding the Cavendish Hotel for my safety. I did actually. Her brother offered to help me, but someone should come down there and give their asses a damn good kicking. But he didn't. Now, I'm not going to attack Helen or her brother for that, but people often say things, they're all mouth, but they don't do anything. So, and what did my godmother do? She's just in the next road. She rang me out of the blue to say, life's a bitch. And she hung up on me, and she didn't want to hear about the satanic ritual abuse victims because I was upsetting her. I'm upsetting her by talking to her about these poor children who've had unthinkable things done to them. And I was being attacked by the police criminals, the demented property managers, and actual dangerous criminals who've just come out of prison who are mentioned in the national news as mugging the elderly. So it's about time people, I mean, I know Helen's mother is American and my mother lived in America. She nearly got an American accent at one time. She was coerced by a cop to have an illegal abortion. A very traumatic story she told me at the end of her life in 1958. And I learned later that abortion, I used to be for abortion until, thanks to Jeanette Archer and people like that, I learned that abortion is used as a satanic sacrifice that's been normalised to this day. So, just like my sister's sex change to a man, so we've got these generational curses. And I think I actually used Yahweh's name to Helen. A person's really got to want to listen, though, for me to actually, mention, I might get her celebrating Shabbat, who knows. I tried, me and Darren I told her about the green man thing, and she was like, what? Because she's that her family have got a major hoarding problem themselves. So she said, he went and found the green man thing. Yeah, but I can't believe one of her grandfathers or great-grandfathers or whatever was a Freemason. Wow. That's amazing, that you just wonder then about the influences, because obviously it's only the higher levels that get into that satanic evil stuff. No, she knows about Scientology. I told her that's how I knew that my eldest sister loved me, when she tried to get me to burn the book. I've been speaking for an hour. Oh my gosh, I've been speaking for an hour. A whole hour. I had to get this off my chest though, didn't I? Oh my gosh. But Helen is saying you can't go back to Eastbourne. It's no good for you. She obviously knows a bit about Eastbourne, because she said, oh, Langley is a rough area. I said, oh, yeah, I know that. So she knows which are the no-go areas and what kind of people they put there and where they come from. I better not say anything, because people will then think that I'm not racist but regionalist. There's this weird animatronic dog downstairs. I said I was poking it with a pole. I know this was I know my best friend Chloe grew up in this hat. I can't believe that. But I said there's this weird animatronic dog, and I don't want to touch it because it's creepy, so I've been poking it with a pole. But I said, look, I was trying, the thing about what Helen, I didn't tell Helen that psychiatry is, the MK Ultra thing, how it's used to control, and Satanists, the Luciferians have taken over these institutions. But I said to her, look, because she was saying you need to, she was telling me what kind of thing I need to be putting in my body, and how women who are on the autistic spectrum, men often get on with their lives. They get but with women it's not detected, and ADHD and autism. And I thought, well, the thing is, it's also used by these narcissistic Luciferians. It's used to discredit people. Don't forget that. I mean, look what they did to Jeanette Archer. She got all these diagnoses to shut her up, and she'd had the most unthinkable evil done to her. So, you know, if we've had trauma that's not been looked at, as mine wasn't, oh, I think you could be this, I think you could be that, but no proper official diagnosis, but we need trauma-based therapy. I mean, let's just call a spade here. There's a lot that has not been talked about. And that is the trauma of my parents. So these are the strongholds, the curses, the generational curses and all that. My father's father beat him. I didn't know that, but he told me on Facebook, and then it's just passed on from generation to generation. And these I mean, I've only just started to watch. I've been feeling really, really drained, and there's a video that's popped up. It said, "Are you feeling tired all the time?" And it's this guy in the UK. Yes, I have an iron deficiency anyway. I'm slightly anemic, but this man who makes live stream, he was live streaming, and he had a young man from the UK, and he had people from all over the world who were on his live stream, and he wants to help people because he said there has been, he showed an article in the UK, a newspaper article, because a lot of people are calling into their GPs complaining of being very, very drained and tired, and they can't do anything. And this man was saying about the chemtrails, and in the comments section of that YouTube video, people are saying, yes, I've seen chemtrails in this town, my partner has seen them, I've seen them in Eastbourne. They are in the UK, and this is all by design, and it's to make people stop going to work. They want a crash in the economy. So these chemtrails really are being pumped out. There was a thing a few years ago on Beachy Head where something was being pumped out on the cliffs because people were, their eyes were stinging, and people were up on the cliffs and their eyes were stinging, like something was being pumped out. I don't know. But yeah, the chemtrails thing in the UK, this is a big, big thing. Because our forefathers, you know, our parents and our forefathers, they didn't have the problems that we're now having. This man from Sweden commented under the video saying, I'm ex-military and I've got arthritis and other problems. I said, I've never felt like this before. But this is a particular big thing in the UK with the chemtrails and a sudden massive, a real pandemic. I mean, a real one. Again, still created by the government, but a real pandemic where people are complaining, where they are absolutely shattered. It's like ME. It reminds me of when my school friend, whose father used to be mayor of East Croydon, and her mother would help her. She had a whole year off school because her mother was too tired, but she'd help her to dress. I don't really understand what ME is, but that's how tired I actually thought I was going to faint. I felt quite faint actually, and I don't think it is just a case of an iron deficiency. I had the blood tests, so I already know that I need iron tablets. That's nothing new. But and obviously the stress and the trauma and what the police and the council have done. But I even as relaxed as I feel here with the PTSD, I'm still very, very drained. It is like someone's sucking the life out of you. but me and Darren have seen the chemtrails. I've seen it in this town and I've seen it in Eastbourne. So I'm going to finish my I've had a text message from Helen. If this gets back to Helen, I don't think it will, because Helen doesn't know my YouTube channel. But if she was to know about it but not tell me about it, nothing I say is to be malicious. It's an outpouring of feelings. I guess it's okay for me to text you then without you getting upset about it, because you said, I get it. There's a lot that you said in the Lidl. There's a lot she said in the Lidl car park that made so much sense about the sensitivity thing. I have to say though, there's a lot that I could say that I'm not going to say it. I'm going to keep it in here because this is YouTube anyway. But I know I said something I shouldn't have said on my YouTube channel. I was perhaps overthinking about Juliet Rawson, about the keys, because that was what made Juliet get her mother in to ask me to leave her flat, because I've had so much abuse. I mean, Helen's never met Steve Churchill, my partner's friend who works at the food bank, but she described him as a nutcase. I said, he's a Christian. No, it doesn't matter. They can be the worst. I said, I know that. But that's not the point. That's not the point. This is about trust. He's of good character. He's got possessions of mine. He's like I know. I'm not. Look, you know, I might as well just not trust. Throw the towel in. Do you know what I mean? This is my partner's friend. But then my partner fell out with Steve. It's on YouTube, me ringing up the food bank and him hanging up on me, and I've just played him a recording of a dangerous criminal threatening to assault me. There's just everyone's going to be held accountable, and Helen at least gets it that prayers have been answered. Absolutely. Me having my head on the ground when there was no one there, all these people in the truthers community, there's a lot of insanity out there. There's a lot of craziness going on. This is what the government has done. There's people who've got their mental health issues. If Helen hadn't have apologised to me, I still would have been able to forgive her. And there is a part of me, even if Juliet's watching, if she doesn't apologise to me, I still, I'm a human and I can understand, because if what annoys me is she did say to me she'd stopped cancer treatment, then she said she was still going through it. Now, she wasn't there when I needed her. And she's a witness to crimes, and they're still live. These crimes are still live. And this is why I've got to go to St Mary's house to get these crimes looked at. But anyway, I'm going to end this. I'm going to stop this now, because I'm going to press stop now, because this Helen has invited me to come and earn 300 quid helping her on her camping thing. I think I'd rather be one of the people enjoying. I just want to get on that beach. I just want to relax. I just need to do something that's good for me. and not worry about having to please someone. I've just survived the last 7 years of torture, and now I'm getting them to do what they should have done for me. I was saying to her, I came close to suing the Herald for libel. This is my victory. This is me getting what I deserve, the respect I should have had from the start. I can't believe that Jane, my childhood friend from when I was about 5 years old, she's now a police sergeant for these criminals. She said, see, that they're not all like that. She got her foot in the door when she worked for victim support. I found victim support a waste of time, like a lot of things. But yeah, I'm like, wow, you know. But everyone's got a different path. This is my. I'm not going to do anything that anyone tells me to do. Anyway, shalom, shalom, Yahuwah. I'm ending the stream.